Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eva Cudmore. I know you guys have seen a lot of my life, especially with streaming and social media, but something that I feel like I don't talk about enough that really consumes most of my life is books. So today I wanted to give you guys my 2024 book review. In 2024, I only read about 20 books, which is pretty crazy to me because this year I'm trying to read 100. Yeah. I am on track though. I am at book 7, so I'm in the right ballpark, and it's like the end of January almost, so I am doing pretty good. When creating this channel, one of the things I really wanted to do was show you guys that there's more to me than gaming and anime and cosplaying, and that I have so many different hobbies, and like a lot of them are very opposite, like reading and gaming. So I am really excited that I get to share more about something that literally consumes my life, probably more than gaming. I have been reading since I was very young. Pretty much my entire life I can remember. When I was in elementary school, during lunch breaks and snack breaks, I was reading my big novels. I used to get my books taken away as punishment. That's how much I loved reading. So it's safe to say I am pretty knowledgeable when it comes to reading. I'm gonna give you guys a quick little honest review of the books that I read in 2024. I'm gonna try and make this as spoiler-free as possible. Also, this is all my own opinion. These are not the order of the books that I read in 2024. I just kind of picked random order. And the last book is actually my favorite book of 2024, so make sure you stay all the way to the end so you can hear about the book that changed my life. Anyways, without further ado, let's start. I really wanted to start off with a strong book series that I really enjoy, and that is the Powerless Trilogy by Lauren Roberts. Love this book. I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about what the books are about, and then I'll give my review. So Powerless follows Peyton, which I love the name. I know a lot of people didn't love the name on TikTok, but I loved it. I thought it was very unique. She lives in a society where everybody has magic. She happens to not have magic. The people that don't have magic are called ordinaries, and the king has tried to eradicate the ordinaries because he thinks that they are plaguing the elites, which are the people with magic powers. She has to steal, do whatever she can to survive because she lives in the slum of the slums. This story is so amazing. She ends up having to compete in like these trial, kind of like Hunger Games styles. If I could say, I feel like this book is a baby between Red Queen and Hunger Games. I love this book. There is enemies to lovers, there is a little bit of like a love triangle, magic, kings, princes. The female character is an underdog. Love. I really like Powerless. I think it was so great. I know some people had different opinions about Powerless, said it wasn't that great of a read. I think it was amazing, honestly. This is a book I would 100% recommend. Also, Lauren Roberts is pretty young. I think she's about my age, maybe a year older, which is crazy. She definitely wrote this when she was younger than I am right now, so that is just like unfathomable. And to piggyback off of that, I also read Reckless. Obviously, the second book to a series is never as good as the first book, but this book was also really good. I liked it. I did think it was a little bit slow at times, but I still think it was really good. The cliffhanger in this book, disgusting. So good. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the third book to come out. I think it comes out sometime this year. I'm not too sure when, but I will read it as soon as I get it. You have to read this book to understand what I'm saying. The cliffhanger in this book was insane. That's all I can say. On a less exciting note, the next series that I'm going to be talking about is the Folk of the Air Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. So, this story follows a young mortal girl named Jude. Her and her family now live in the Fae realm. She has to attend school where all the other Faes go, where the royalty goes, and a certain cruel prince also attends. He is horrible to her. He hates her. She hates him. Very enemies to lovers. There is disgusting betrayal, especially in these books. The first book is The Cruel Prince, and then we've got The Wicked King, and then we have Queen of Nothing. This series is incredibly hyped up on TikTok, and I did not enjoy it at all. It was really painful getting through these books. I didn't enjoy it. I'm sorry. I know I might get hate for that, but the only book of the 3 that I tolerated was The Queen of Nothing, which is crazy because it's the last book, but I just feel like they did the main character wrong. She was so strongly willed, but her like physical character was so weak and so dependent, and I did not like that. I feel like they could have made her more badass. I did not like the main male character, Cardan, I believe is how you say his name. I didn't like him at all. I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like how he treated her even when they were lovers. I didn't like it at all. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't like the series. It might also be because I read it after my favorite book of 2024, so I was still like chasing that high, and I just didn't get it with this. But if you like this series, I'm very happy for you. I know this is definitely a series that people like, so I'm in the minority here. I did not enjoy it. Maybe I should reread it one day because it might just be because of the book that I had read before these. But I was very disappointed. I was really excited for this. Another slightly disappointing book was Twisted Love from the Twisted series by Anne Huang. I think I'm saying her name right. This book is brother's best friend, it's close proximity, it's grumpy sunshine, CEO. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about this. It was the only regular romance book I actually read in all of 2024. And I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. Maybe it's because I can only read romantasy now, but this book was incredibly aggressive, and I think that's why I didn't like it. Listen, I love spice as much as the next person, but this was very aggressive. A little too aggressive for me. It felt like most of it was in the wrong place, wrong time. I did not enjoy this book as much as I wanted to. I heard the other books in the series are good. I have them, but I'm not too sure if I'll read them. I didn't love this book. I did, however, love the characters, and I love the plot storyline. I just didn't love how it was told, and I just think overall the book was a little too aggressive for me. But if this is your vibe, if you know what I mean, then all to you. The next book on this list is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. I don't think I actually finished this book, now that I'm thinking about it. It's a big book, but because I think I picked up another book. I don't know why I didn't finish this book. Obviously, it wasn't that memorable, but it was a good book. I do remember I liked it. I might have finished it. I don't know. If I didn't, I will definitely read it this year. This book follows Penelope, which I don't like that name. I'm so sorry if anyone watching this is named Penelope. I don't think it was a good name for this character. But it's following Penelope, who is this maiden, and basically she has been raised to be this like pure person who nobody talks to. She has to keep her face covered, and she's basically given as a gift to the gods and to ascend to like help everyone else become this elite royal society. She is a sacrifice, basically, is what I'm saying. And this book, looking at it and reading the first 50% of, more than 50%, the first like 60% of this book, I would have never known that this book was about vampires, and I think werewolves was in this too. Crazy. So that definitely changed the whole plot line of this book. I was like, what? But I did really enjoy this book, and I am happy that I read it, and if I didn't finish it, I will definitely read it. The next books on this series is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, the series. So I read The Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass. This book follows Selena. She is an assassin, and she just worked for a full year in the salt mines, these like crazy salt mines, for her crimes. She's 18 years old. She ends up getting dragged out of the salt mines, and the prince asks her to be this like champion in these Hunger Game kind of trials. Again, I only read the first two. I'm really excited to read the rest of the series. I really like them. I do suggest reading Assassin's Blade before reading Throne of Glass. You got to hear about past lovers, what her life was like before she entered the salt mines, which is this book. Again, I haven't read much of the series. I am really excited to continue reading, so I'll let you guys know how I feel, but pretty good book so far. Everyone loves these books, so I'm sure they're going to be great. Sarah J Maas is a really, really, really good author, so I am really excited. Next book on this list is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, I think is how you say her name. I'm not sure. Sorry if I mispronounced. I'm going to get into the summary before I give my review. This book is about a witch who lives in a society where witches aren't supposed to exist, and if they do exist, they are hunted by witch hunters. It's about a girl who just so happens to be a witch and a guy who just so happens to be a witch hunter, and it's enemies to lovers, it's secrecy, mystery. She knows that he's a witch hunter, he doesn't know she's a witch. Lots of crazy stuff happens. I loved this book. I really, really love this book. I know in the UK, I think it's called Crimson Moth, which is very interesting. I don't know why they changed the name for the American editions, but I absolutely love this book. It was so good. I made a really big mistake reading this though, because I try to only read books that are in like a series with 1 or 2 more books or like a full-blown finished series. I thought this was in a series, and I finished the book so quick. I think I finished it in like one night. And I go on my Kindle to buy the next book, and it says pre-order for 2025 or 2026, I can't remember. Pre-order? What do you mean pre-order? So I had to sit there with a cliffhanger at the end of this book, being upset about it because that's all I could do because I couldn't read the next book because it wasn't out yet. So when it comes out, I will definitely read the second book because this was really good, and I am really, really happy I read this. So I definitely recommend this one as well. Next we've got Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This book follows Kaiva, I believe is how you say her name, the main character. And she was put in a prison with her father very, very young. And her father was actually the prison healer, so he took care of all of the inmates who were sick, hurt, whatever it was. He also had to do some not so fun things when they entered the prison for the first time, which she now has to do because her father did pass away. The book follows her and her journey, and at some point 2 prisoners arrive. One is a very charming young man, and then the other is a woman who is severely injured and sick and unconscious. And basically the woman who enters is one of the most dangerous criminals. She's like the queen of this organized rebellion. And because of how dangerous she is and how severe her crimes are, the punishment for her is to participate in these 4 elemental like trials in front of everyone else in the prison and the royal family. However, like I said, the woman is unconscious and super, super sick, obviously not able to participate in these sort of activities. No one has ever survived all 4 of the elements, and Kaiba actually volunteers to do these trials in place of the woman. Nobody knows why. This is just a random woman that came, but she is such a good person that she steps in and volunteers to do these trials. You know, she gets to speak with the prince a little bit. He shows some interest in her. It's a whole thing. Very crazy. The plot twist in the end of this book, insane, guys. I had to put the book down. Are you kidding me? Such a good book. Also really, really recommend this book. Go read this. Another slight disappointment of a book. That sounded so mean, I'm sorry. But for me personally, it was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book follows a journalist who figures out she has this like magical typewriter her grandma used to have, and starts sending letters to somebody. She's unaware who this person is. They're responding. And they're like these magical letters that you slide under a door and it ends up at that person's house. It's crazy. And then she ends up going to the front lines of where the war is happening, and it just gets crazy. I didn't love this book. Also, I might be biased because it is told from a third-person point of view, and I don't really like that. Never really like that in books. I like to be able to hear people's thoughts and like know exactly what they're thinking, but that's kind of hard to do from third-person point of view instead of like first-person point of view. So that I did not love. I also know that this book was very hyped up on TikTok, and this is another one where I was a little bit disappointed reading because it just was slow. It was kind of uneventful. I don't know. I didn't love this book. I won't be reading the second book. I did have the second book on my TBR list, but I have since taken it off because I didn't like this book enough to read it. But if this is what you're into, very chill kind of romance, magical mystery, this is definitely something that you should read. But it just wasn't for me. The next books I actually don't have physically, but it's The Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckman and Suzanne Valenti. Sorry, that was a mouthful. I've never read a book or a book series by 2 people, but that was insane. Like I said, I don't have these books physically yet, but once I can get my hands on them, I will be buying them. I read 5 of these books in the series in the span of like 2 weeks. I loved these books. I think there's about 13 or something crazy in this series. Obviously, I haven't read all of it, but it's basically all the fantasy you can ever imagine in one book, or I guess one series. There's vampires, there's werewolves, there's sirens, there's dragons, there's fated mates, there's found family, there's trials, there's elemental magic, there's zodiac signs, there's royal blood, there's the crown. Oh my gosh, there's everything in these books. I know everybody says these books are not the most prestigious piece of literature, which I agree, but they are so entertaining. I could not put these books down. I love these. Honestly, this series is not talked about enough. It is so good. It is so like enemies to lovers, there is love triangles, there's everything in this book. Like everything you could imagine is in this series. It follows these two sisters who were living their lives really, really poor in the mortal world, and then someone kind of just picks them up and brings them, and they're like, hey, you have to go to the Zodiac Academy because you guys are actually the blood of two royals. And they're like, what are you talking about? It is crazy, guys. I really like these books. I also really recommend them. The spice is pretty crazy in them, I'm not gonna lie. So if you're not into that, maybe not. But I think they were super entertaining. I wouldn't have even been able to tell that they were written by two people because it was so seamless. Everything was great. And I did really, really like these books. So now we are getting to a book that almost was my #1 book of the year. And this is from the series Gods and Monsters, The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This book is not talked about enough. Let me get into it. This book follows these two sisters. I feel like sisters is a very common theme in the books that I've read. But follows these two sisters on the brink of death. A man finds them, turns them into, I think both of them get turned into, I can't remember, into these like monsters who can take the form of humans. The main female character in this is the morally gray one. Crazy. This never happens in books. Guys, sorry. I'll tell you how I feel about the book in a second. But it's very grumpy, sunshine, enemies to lovers, the whole 9 yards, gods, princes. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. Different realms. I absolutely love this book. The ending of this book tore my heart out. The ending of this book was absolutely insane. Guys, I have literally no words when I talk about this book. But then I have all the words in the world, let me tell you. I love this book. Love this book so much. It was so good. The banter, the angst, it was dual POV, the backstory, everything that happened in this book was so perfect to a T. I will never get over this book. I could read this book probably a million times. I'm so happy I picked it up. You guys definitely need to read this book. This is on my you need to read list. And overall, there was nothing wrong with this book. Everything was perfect about it. I have nothing bad to say about this book. However, on my list of books I read in 2024, the second book of this series is not on that list because I started it directly after I finished this book because this book ends on a crazy cliffhanger and I wanted to know what happened. I could not finish the second book. I really did not like the second book in the series. It was so disappointing. That was my most disappointment of all the books I read in 2024 because I couldn't finish the book. I did eventually finish it in 2025 a couple weeks ago. I just picked it up. I was like, I have to finish it. It did get good at the end, but 70% of that book was just complaining. It was so slow. It was like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum the whole time. They added like 5 more POVs, which you don't need to do that, by the way. Listen, Zodiac Academy had a lot of POVs. It was great because they had it from the first book. This book only has 2 POVs. Don't switch it up in the second book. Don't do that. From POVs of people we don't need, people I don't care about. I don't even start, guys. It's my most disappointment of all 2024. This book was so good. Perfect to a T. The second book, which I think is The Throne of Broken Gods, I was so disappointed. And it's like twice the size of this book, too. You can't make a book this good and then the second book be one of the worst books I read in all of 2024. So sad. Anyways, I did finish it. The end of that book was better. It got good at the end, but that doesn't make up for the whole disappointment of the entire book. I know there is a third book. I'm still deciding on whether or not I'm going to read it because I don't want to be disappointed a second time, but people did say it does get better in the third book, so I will probably read it. Now, last but not least, we have my favorite book of 2024. The first book of 2024, actually, that got me out of my reading slump. I hadn't really been reading that much. I think the year before I read maybe like 3 books. This book changed my life. This book got me out of my reading slump. It truly got me back into the passion that I have for books. It is none other than the first book in the series called Imperium, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I know you guys are probably sick of seeing this book because people talk about it all the time. I don't care. Let me talk about this book. This book follows Violet, our main character. Love her. She lived her whole life following in her father's footsteps. She was supposed to be a scribe. She ended up being forced to become a writer, which is what her mother was. Her mother is like the captain or the general or something in the like writer society. She's very high up in the hierarchy, a big warrior, wanted her daughter to also follow in her footsteps like both of her siblings did. I have nothing bad to say about this book either. Incredible. It has so much depth. There are dragons, there's powers, enemies to lovers, dark romance, close proximity, bound to each other. There is one of the best found families I've ever read in a book. I have no words. Honestly, this book was so good. And I know, again, any book that blows up on TikTok, people love to say was horrible. Not this book. I will not hear any criticism about this book. I understand that it is a very mainstream book now and that people love it, but it is so warranted. This book literally changed my life. It changed the way I think about things. It changed my habits. I'm obsessed with this book. I could never get enough of this book. I could read it a million times. Absolutely beautiful. Look, it literally like glows. That's crazy. The world building in this book is literally so good. I know some people say they got confused. I don't understand. There's no way I could have gotten confused with this world building. She was so clear. The way this book was written is perfect. I have nothing bad to say about this book. Honestly, it is so good. I definitely recommend, if I could recommend any book from today, it's definitely going to be this one. I read the second book, which is Iron Flame. Obviously, we just talked about it. No book is ever going to be as good as the first book, especially when the first book was that. Holy. And I think people kind of don't understand that enough, where people read this second book and they were all like, oh, it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. No, it was. It was a great book, but it wasn't as good as the first book. So if this was a standalone book, obviously it wouldn't make sense if it was a standalone book because you kind of need to read the first one. But if it was, it would be a great book. It really would. But because it's a second book to an absolutely magnificent first book, people thought it was mid. I don't think it was. Great books. I actually just got the third book. I haven't had time to read it yet, but I will as soon as I can. It's called Onyx Storm, and I'm so excited. Love these books. Wow, dude, let me tell you, that main male character, okay. Also, if you don't believe me when I say I love that book, this is the only like genuine special edition that I have of any book. Well, I have like other special editions with like spade edges, but this book was like $200. This is the bookish edition. I have it in this glass little cabinet and I rarely take it out, so you guys better feel special. It's still in the plastic. It is the bookish edition, and if you don't know what bookish is, it's like this subscription where you can get books that are all special editions and they only get sent out once, and it's impossible to get on the list for bookish. I've literally been waiting for like 4 years and I'm still not on the list. Whatever. But this is the front. It's perfect. And then the back says, a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without his dragon is dead. I believe that's very commonly said in the book. Absolutely love this book. I can die happy knowing that I read a book that good. There are very, very few books in this world that have made me feel the way that Fourth Wing made me feel. And I think ever since reading it, I've been kind of chasing that high. I have been chasing it in every single book that I read last year, every single book I read this year. I got a little hit of it from Powerless. I got a little hit of it from Heartless Hunter, Book of Azrael. They all made me feel a little bit the way that that book made me feel, but none of them, and I mean none of them, have ever compared to the way that Fourth Wing made me feel. Anyways, that was a lot of talking. I'm very sorry for yapping your ear off. I love talking about books. It's probably my favorite thing to talk about. Once I start talking about them, I can't stop. But I am gonna try and stop myself. If you guys have absolutely any book recommendations, or if you've read any of those books, please let me know in the comments. Like I said, I love talking about books, so I will happily converse with you guys about books. Let me know in the comments. I read every single comment. I also have a little book club channel on Instagram. It's in my Instagram bio if you guys want to join that. It's like one of those Instagram channels. I'm not too sure how they work, but I love talking to you guys and you guys give me good book recommendations. So I am really excited about that. If you want to join, make sure you join. My Instagram is eva.cudmore. That is it for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much if you made it to the end. I don't expect many of you did, but if you did stay here this whole time I've been yapping about my books, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I love my books with all my heart. This is my favorite room in the whole house. I spend so much time in here, and honestly, books just make me happy, and you guys listening to me talking about books makes me happy, so thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. Go out, read a book. Let me know if you read any of these books. Thank you so much for being here. I love you.